know why I use a knife? Guns are too quick. You can't savor all the little emotions.
Hi, welcome to Video Notes. Welcome to analyzing the best knife fight scenes in movies. Welcome to part 3, where today we are talking about the top 5. This is part 3, so if you haven't already, check out part 1 and 2. My pick for the 5th best knife fight in movies is 100 Yards. No, not that one. Yeah, this one.
上代人进城市交权，门前100米，有人打架闹事，出门要管。
Remember Xu Haofeng from earlier? He made an incredible 10-minute long fight scene in The Final Master. But just as Yuen Woo-ping did, Xu Haofeng thought to himself, I could do better. I raised myself. I challenged myself to do better. And he did with 2023's 100 Yards. I've been a fan of Xu Haofeng ever since The Final Master. His other movies are hard to find, so The Final Master, Judge Archer, and this movie, 100 Yards, are the only movies I've seen of him. And I was so excited for 100 Yards release. I was counting the days. And 100 Yards is definitely his most action-packed film yet. I can't get enough of his action style, and it feels like it really evolved with this movie. A lot of criticism I hear about the fights in 100 Yards is that the hits are too light, and there's not enough impact. Tap and they are out is what I hear the fights described as. That is true, but it's also what I love about the fight scenes in this movie. Xu Haofeng is a dedicated martial artist, and as anyone who's done martial arts will tell you, you do not need a lot of force to hurt someone, especially if you have a weapon. If you know what you're doing, a small flick of the wrist is all you need to hurt or maim someone. People complain about the fights in this movie saying, one soft hit and they fall down, or tap and you're out. But that's it actually, that's how it works in real life. If you've ever been hit with a stick before, it does not take much force at all to hurt someone with a stick. A small hit to the head with a bat is all it takes to knock someone out. And especially with this movie, people are being hit with martial arts weapons. A little bit of background about me, I'm a Kung Fu practitioner myself, and I've been doing Taekwondo for over 10 years. I've been to a lot of tournaments and competitions, and I've seen people get hit by light, soft-looking hits, and get slammed to the ground as a result, like tapping you out, as mentioned earlier. Xu Haofeng doesn't use big cinematic hits, and the fights have a focus on grounded realism. The fights are quick, furious exchanges, and the hits are quick and snappy. My two favorites is the spear guy and the Charlie foot guy. If you're interested in an action-packed movie with gorgeous visuals and a great soundtrack and a really unique take on action, I strongly recommend 2023's 100 Yards. The easiest way to watch it is to rent or buy it on YouTube or Amazon. However, warning, do not rent or buy it on Apple TV. When it first came out on VOD, Apple TV was the only place that had it, and it wasn't out on YouTube or Prime yet, so Apple TV was the only place I could watch it. So I rented it on Apple TV the week it came out, but before the movie, the subtitles were so teeny tiny, I had to squint, and it was so hard to read what they were saying from where I was sitting. I spent 2 hours trying to figure out how to adjust the subtitle size in the settings. 2 hours I tried, but Apple TV wouldn't let me. I looked up everything I could, and no matter what I tried, I could not change the subtitle size for Apple TV. They were locked in the default teeny tiny font size. Seriously, how is it 2025 and they are still making subtitles hard to read?
여러분들이 훨씬 더 많은 영화를 즐길 수 있습니다.
Once you overcome the 1-inch tall barrier of subtitles, you will be introduced to so many more amazing films.
It's reasons like this that the subtitle barrier exists. It's no wonder why some people refuse to watch movies with subtitles because of stuff like Apple TV. When you have to read text fast, it's just common sense to make the text big ass and easy to read. Imagine if highway signs were printed in 6-point font. Just simply make the subtitles big ass and easy to read, and make it really easy for people to adjust the subtitle size so they can make the subtitles bigger or smaller depending on their preference. It's that simple. If people want the subtitles small, they can just change it in the settings, or they can make it bigger. Apple TV didn't have that option, where it was buried so deep that even after 2 hours of research, I couldn't figure out how to do it. So my first time watching it, because it was on Apple TV, it was miserable. I couldn't read the subtitles because they were too small and I had no idea what was going on. When it finally came out on YouTube, I bought it, went to the settings, made the subtitles big ass, and it took less than 2 minutes. It was easy peasy. Thank you, YouTube. You're beautiful. And I've been watching the movie on YouTube ever since. Lesson is, never rent or buy subtitle movies on Apple TV. It sucks. Boo. For the number 4 pick, once again, it was really tough. All of these movies easily deserved the top spot for best knife fight, and it was really difficult ranking them in order. Once again, it was a really tough call. Number 4 and number 3 were pretty much neck and neck. It was like choosing which of my favorite children to give up for adoption. Sorry, Timmy. The 4th best knife fight is the hallway fight in the ring. Remember the guys on Wanted for Dune? That's them. The fights Iko Uwais and Yang Union created for the raid, once again, sorry for butchering their pronunciation, coupled with Gareth Evans' direction, was like chocolate and peanut butter. For me, I'm a Hong Kong Kung Fu cinema purist. I love fight scenes where it's just the camera, it doesn't move or cut much, and you just see all the action in frame. Like the Ip Man movies, the classic 80s and 90s Jackie Chan movies like Police Story, Who Am I, Project A, and other greats like Iron Monkey, Bodyguard from Beijing. Steady camera, no shaking, that's my bread and butter. Gorgeous, Iron Monkey, In the Line of Duty 4. The Raid is none of that. The camera moves around like a mad dog. It's shaky and there's a lot of quick cutting. On paper, I should hate the fight scenes in The Raid. However, it's not that I don't like a camera moving around a lot or shaky cam or quick cuts. It's that for the most part, films that do those techniques do it in order to hide the action and to hide the fact that the actors can't fight. However, the guys in The Raid can fight. They trained for months for the fights in this movie. The camera doesn't move and cut to hide the action. The camera moves, shakes, and cuts to complement the action. The camera doesn't shake and cut to hide the hits. The camera moves to highlight the hits and to make them even more brutal. Plus, the hallway fight combines my 2 favorite movie weapons in one, tonfas and knives. And lastly, a special shout out to the 20-minute finale sequence of The Raid 2. I love when action movies just end on a non-stop 20-minute action set piece. The warehouse and kitchen fight in The Raid 2 is, in my opinion, the 2 greatest fight scenes in the Raid series. Back to the first Raid. The Raid, the first one, is one of my all-time favorite movies. It is a brilliant, non-stop roller coaster ride from beginning to end. It's the definition of a rewatchable action movie, and I love the simplicity of the plot, just fighting their way up from floor to floor. Top 3 time. For the number 3 spot, I have to give it to John Wick 3.
And away we go.
John Wick is one of the greatest and most popular gun fu and martial arts action franchises of the present. even making its way to the mainstream. And just as Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan, and The Matrix helped popularize and revitalize martial arts movies in the West, Keanu Reeves does it again with John Wick. The man can do no wrong. John Wick has ingrained itself so much in the popular zeitgeist that most people don't even think of it as a martial arts film. They just think of it as a movie. Though John Wick's focus is mainly on close quarters tactical kung fu combat, it has some amazing blade fights too. And the fight versus Common in 2 and the fight versus the Raid guys in 3 are top notch. However, the number 3 spot has to go to the museum fight, my personal favorite fight scene of the entire series. It's fast, check. Speed, check. But is it deadly though? Is it deadly? Do I need to say more? I watched this movie 3 times in theaters. My friends and I laughed and screamed the entire time during this scene. I can't show the actual scene on YouTube, obviously, sorry. The scene is only a few minutes long, but the tension made it feel like it lasted minutes in the theater. When me and my friends were first watching it, we all thought they weren't gonna actually show the blade going into the eye. We all thought the movie was gonna cut away before the blade went in. But then the scene kept going, and it did. And we all screamed and laughed. And it did. And there was a couple beside me, and during the entire scene, the boyfriend was laughing, and the girlfriend was squirming with her head in her eyes. I love it. This is why I go to the cinemas to see the movies in person, for the live audience reactions. Public service announcement. Speaking of which, you know who really deserves a slow knife to the eye? People who look at their phones in the middle of the movie. Don't do that. If you're in the theater, just set your phone aside during the movie. If you can't go 2 hours without having to look at your phone, then just don't go to movie theaters. You may think they don't, but the people around you all notice every time you do it. It's so distracting, and they hate you for it. Alright, back to categories. Lastly, creativity. I mentioned earlier that there's nothing cooler than knife throwing. I love it, but usually knife throwing is kept to a few short flashes. But this movie committed a whole fight scene to knife throwing. In most movies, throwing knives are treated as Looney Tunes, and they're usually depicted as being cartoonishly dangerous. We usually see people get killed instantly by a throwing knife. In this fight, however, all the combatants are wearing thick layers of clothing, so throwing knives are less cartoonishly dangerous, and it's more accurate to how deadly they would be in a real fight. Deadly, but not fatal. You wouldn't kill someone with just one throw, but they'd hurt like hell, but are only deadly if you get them in the vitals. Ultimately, it was the creativity of this fight scene that put it above the Raid and earned the number 3 spot. Plus, its more grounded depiction of knife throwing. And this. They did a Buddha's palm in a John Wick movie. You can't get better than this. For the number 2 spot, the number 2 best knife fight scene is SPL. I will be completely honest here. This is actually my number 1 favorite fight scene of all time. Not just with knife fights. It's my number 1 favorite fight scene, period. That's why it was so hard putting it at this number 2 spot. Because even though it is my favorite knife fight scene, I do not consider it the best. I'll explain why when we get to number 1. Categories. Speed. Speed is my favorite part about this fight scene. What makes this fight scene stand out is a large part of the fight scene was improvised. They used choreography for the major hits, but most of the exchange was essentially Donnie Yen and Wu Jing sparring. Donnie Yen just told Wu Jing to come at me. He pretty much just said, let's fight, and filmed it. And that's what this scene feels like. A fight between 2 people out for each other, but heightened. It's full of feinting, psyching each other out, and stance changes. All the things people would do in a real fight situation. The rawness of this fight is why I think it's one of the greatest fight scenes ever filmed. SPL is also my favorite Donnie Yen movie of all time. I watch this movie every year. I will usually watch it alongside Flashpoint as a double feature, as I consider Flashpoint an unofficial prequel to SPL. I will usually set aside a weekend every year to watch SPL and Flashpoint as a double feature and Paradox the next day. As for SPL 2, we don't really talk about SPL 2. The fight scenes are fantastic, but I don't really like the actual movie very much. Once again, SPL is my favorite Donnie Yen movie of all time, along with Iron Monkey and Flashpoint. There is, however, a great symmetry between SPL 1 and SPL 2. In SPL 1, Donnie Yen is the good guy and he uses a weighted police baton, and Wu Jing is the knife-wielding assassin. In SPL 2, Wu Jing is the policeman with the police tofa, and he is now fighting against the knife-wielding assassin.
And then that with Anakin, again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme, every stanza kind of rhymes with the last one.
So this just means if they make an official SPL 3, pray, I hope it's good, he will have to be the good guy. The no eyebrows man, he will have to be the good guy. Probably a policeman fighting with a police flashlight or some sort of police weapon, and he'll be the one who will have to fight a funny looking knife assassin, probably with a creme. Back to the categories. Deadliness. The film wisely spent the entire movie setting up how deadly Wu Jing's knife is. The movie opens with him stabbing someone in cold blood. You could call it a cold open. And as for how this fight scene ends, I won't spoil the fight scene for you. Please, if you haven't already, watch this movie, trust me. But yeah, I'll just say it's hella deadly. The knife does what the knife do. Lastly, creativity. When I first saw this movie, it was my first time seeing the weighted police baton. Now the weapon is extremely popular, you see it everywhere. But when the movie first came out, I had never seen this weapon before. So it gets creativity points for introducing me to a cool new weapon. And yes, in case you're wondering, of course I went out looking for one after I saw this movie. And yes, I love it. The weighted tip feels so satisfying to swing. Lastly, the improvised sparring nature of this fight also gives it creativity points, as most fight scenes are not shot like this. A lot of fights look very obviously extremely choreographed with how slow they move. And I wish more fights featured a bit more of just the actors sparring and fighting for real. In a safe environment, of course. Bonus points, the music is also fantastic. Number 1. For most action film lovers, you are probably yelling at the screen this whole time, wondering where is Man from Nowhere? And I bet you are all waiting, getting ready to send me death threats if I go through this entire list and don't even mention Man from Nowhere. Don't worry, it's finally here. The Man from Nowhere is number 1, and deservedly so. Man from Nowhere is my number 1, because anyone making a video about knife fights and not mentioning a Man from Nowhere, it's a war crime, and they deserve to be publicly shamed.
Shame! Shame!
Anyway, before I talk about the greatest knife fight scene in cinema, I cannot talk about the Man from Nowhere without talking about Kim Se-run. Kim Se-run is a South Korean actress, and she played the little girl in this movie. She was my favorite part about this movie. For a child actor, she acted the hell out of this movie. Her character really put that special spark in this movie, and her performance in this movie helped elevate this movie from being a regular old action movie to being one of the most renowned action movies of all time. Outside from The Man from Nowhere in movies, she also has another one of my favorite TV show fight scenes from the show Bloodhounds. The trusty police baton is back. She fights with a weighted police baton and taser. I love her fight scene because you very rarely see a taser in an action scene, and her physicality in the action scene is incredible. I first watched The Man from Nowhere around the time it released in the West, and I've been a fan of Kim Se-run ever since. Kim Se-run passed away recently. She crashed her car due to a DUI. She didn't hurt anybody and owned up to her mistake. But as a result of her one mistake, she was cancelled, bullied, and harassed nonstop for 2 years by the South Korean media. She became severely depressed and killed herself in February of 2025. She was 24 years old. I cried the morning I saw it on the news. It is appalling how the media and general public treated her, and I hope her death can spark a positive change for how celebrities are treated by the public. Celebrities are people too, and everyone makes mistakes, and everyone deserves forgiveness, and there's only so much someone can take. I cried again when I rewatched this movie in prep for this video. Movie discussion time. The Man from Nowhere is my second favorite knife fight of all time, SPL being my number one. But though I personally think, even though I like the knife fight in SPL way more, I personally think The Man from Nowhere is the best knife fight of all time because of the impact and legacy it had. I watched SPL way before Man from Nowhere. SPL was released in 2005, and I probably watched it in 2007, 2 years before Man from Nowhere. I love the fight scene in SPL, but the movie didn't make me fall in love with knife fights. The first time I watched The Man from Nowhere, however, the movie did such a good job of showcasing carnage and brutality of knife fighting that I realized that knife fights are my new favorite weapon in cinema. It was only after The Man from Nowhere that I really started to take note and appreciate knife fights in movies. And immediately after seeing The Man from Nowhere, I started looking out and looking for more movies with knife fights. And even after years of watching so many great movies with knife fights, this fight from The Man from Nowhere will always, and it will forever be, the gold standard. It will always be the one knife fight of which all knife fights are measured against. And though in the time since, there has been many movies with far better knife fights, i.e. The Raid, John Wick 3, SPL, and though the knife fights in those movies are all far better than the knife fight from the Man from Nowhere, this movie will still forever hold the number one spot for me for its impact and the legacy it has. This movie made knife fighting serious in cinema, and it's not just me. There is a reason why most film buffs widely consider this the greatest knife fight ever made, because it is. The Man from Nowhere gets all the points for deadliness. Him dragging the guy across the floor, slitting his wrists, opening them up, is just absolutely brutal. And it gets creativity points for being one of the first movies to show such high levels of brutality in a fight scene. This fight is also a prime example of how close-up and personal knife fights are. No matter how many times I watch this fight scene, it still leaves me breathless every time. And special bonus points for the music, and especially the absolutely perfect sound design. And lastly, it goes without saying, but we did not talk about the Hindi remake.
इन पैसों का क्या करोगे?
तुम्हें पता है सब लोग
And you see this move with the bite? Is this a Under Siege callback? Probably not, but imagine if it is. Thank you for watching this video. This is Video Notes. Like and subscribe if you enjoy for more future upcoming videos about action scenes and martial arts movies. Comment on what you would want for me to talk about next. Thanks for watching. I hope this video has introduced you to some new action movies to watch. That was my mission. And once again, to close, rest in peace, Kim Sae-ron. May you find peace and may you live on forever in your movies.
김새론
그래도 안 나와요.
김재동입니다. 그녀들의 속상이를 만나게 해주신 이용이 감독님, 강한 작가님, 그리고 배우분들, 도와주신 스태프분들 정말 감사합니다. 제가 지칠 때 들여다봐주신 골동에다 식구분들이랑 매니저님, 소미아님, 저희 부모님까지 고맙다는 말을 해드리고 싶었어요. 제가